Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. Today's block is called Just Call Me Diva, and it's 12-inch finished. Here is our diagram. The different units we have in here are plain squares in the corner. We have quarter square triangles on the sides, and we have chisel units on each side of the quarter square triangles. And inside here, we have a 6-inch finished snowball block. There's a lot going on, but really easy things. We're going to use, for the chisel units and the snowball, we're going to use stitch and flip, or the folded corner clipper. Here are 4 blocks set block to block. And this is part of the Stitch Pink 2020 quilt from Moda Fabrics. And there'll be a link to their pattern right here. Patch A is a 3-inch finished square. We cut 3.5-inch squares. We'll need 4 patches of the background fabric, and these are the outside corners. Patch B is a 1.5-inch by 3-inch finished rectangle. We cut 3.5 inches by 2-inch rectangles. We'll need 8 patches for the background fabric. Now this is for the chisel units, and we have 8 chisel units in the block. And this is for rotary cutting. If you are using AccuQuilt, you have the choice of using rectangles. If you cut rectangles and you're going to do stitch and flip method with the squares, then cut your rectangles. There is a chisel die that has the chisels, so you don't have to stitch and flip. You can cut chisel pieces, and that number die is right here. And patch C is a 3-inch finished quarter square triangle. We cut 4.25-inch squares and cut them in half twice on the diagonal for 4 patches. We'll need 8 patches of the background and 8 patches of the accent fabric. This will make 4 quarter square triangles. We're going to use the 4 at a time method to make quarter square triangles. And here are the AccuQuilt dies for this one. Patch D, which is a 1.5-inch finished square, we cut 2-inch squares. And these are used for the stitch and flip. The dark patches are used for the chisel units, and the background patches are used for the snowball unit. And here are your AccuQuilt dies. If you want to cut the squares and stitch and flip, you can use these dies. If you want to cut triangles, you can use these dies. If you're going to cut these triangles, you really need to have the chisel die as well. And patch E is a 6-inch finished square. We cut a 6.5-inch square. We just need 1 patch, and this is for the big snowball unit in the middle. And if you want to cut the square with AccuQuilt, you can use this die, these 2 dies, or you can use the snowball block die, which has the snowball unit and the triangle units. Here are the cutting instructions for all of the fabrics. Here are the fabrics. This is for the snowball unit in the center, and these are the snowball squares we're going to use. These are for the chisel units. Here's the background, and then the squares for the chisel units, stitch and flip. These are the squares for the quarter square triangles, 4 at a time, and I've cut mine larger so I can trim down later. But you can cut however you like, and I'll be demoing how to do stitch and flip and the quarter square triangles 4 at a time. These are the squares for the outside corners. We're going to start by doing the stitch and flip for both of these fabrics. There are 2 methods I'm going to show you for doing stitch and flip. The first one is to draw a diagonal line and stitch just to the right of the line. For the chisel units, you have to pay attention to the direction of the angle. You'll see in step 2, we'll make 4 this way and 4 that way. So be sure you watch that when you're making your stitch and flip units. If you're using the chisel die with AccuQuilt, you have 2 chisel patches on this die. You need 4 of each chisel unit, each direction. So what you'll need to do is put 2 layers of fabric right sides up and 2 layers of fabric right sides down. That will get you your left and right chisel patches. And then here are the half square triangles that you'll sew on the end of the chisel units. And this half square triangles will cut 4 patches at once, so you'll just need to cut 2 layers of fabric for this one. And it doesn't matter if it's right sides or wrong sides up. So we'll take this one and just take our marked square and put it on top. And what I do to help me remember this is take a pin, and the part I'm going to cut off, I put an X. I know this is really the only part you can cut off, but I just do that anyway so I'll know. We'll take this to the machine and stitch just to the right of this marked line. Now that's for stitch and flip. For the folded corner clipper, so I mark these. This is the direction I want of my angle, and this is the part that I want to cut off. So I have to turn this around, and when I'm using my folded corner clipper. Here I've marked this angle, and this is what I'm cutting off. And I line up the 2-inch mark here, the side here, and the top up here, and match this little line here. So I know I've got it in the right spot, and now I'm going to trim this off. You see, these are exactly the same. With the stitch and flip method, we stitch first, then cut. With the folded corner clipper, we cut first and then stitch. Here are the two. This is the folded corner clipper, and this is the stitch and flip. You can see I have stitched just to the right of that drawn line. Now I'm going to cut this part off. I'm going to cut about a 1/4 inch away from the stitching line. So you see, you get the identical results just using 2 different methods. Now we'll take these, both of these, and press the seams open, and we have 2 of the chisel units. So we'll make 2 more like this. Just follow the diagram on step 2 and make 4 of each of these. For the snowball unit, you're going to do the same thing, only you're going to put them in the corners. Put the squares in the corners and mark the diagonals like this, and then you will cut off these corners. So do that for all 4 corners, and you'll have your snowball unit. The next thing we'll do is take the C patches, our squares, and make our 1/4 square triangles. We're going to do 1/4 square triangles 4 at a time. So we have 2 light fabrics and 2 dark fabrics. And I've cut these larger so we can trim down later. You start this the same way as a half square triangle. You draw 1 diagonal line on the back of the light fabric, put them together, and then you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch or a scant 1/4 inch on both sides of this diagonal line. And you'll do that with both of these. When I stitch a scant 1/4 inch, I have a little metal guide on my presser foot that shows where the 1/4 inch marking is. So if I want a true 1/4 inch, I would put the guide right on this marked line. But if I want a scant 1/4 inch, I put the guide just to the right of the drawn line. And so as I'm stitching this row, I'll have my guide on this side. Then you flip this around and do the other side the same way, and you'll have your 2 rows of stitching. When you're done with the stitching, we're going to cut it in half along the drawn line, and then we'll press our seams to the dark side. For this, we'll press to one side because it helps get more accuracy on your piecing. So once you press to the dark side, then you'll flip these over, and you want to interlock these seams. You can feel with your fingers if they're interlocked because it's nice and flat, and then all the edges are straight. So once you do that, we're going to mark another line this way, this diagonal line. Now we'll do the same thing and stitch on both sides of this line. And do that for both sets. Once you've stitched, we're going to cut this along the diagonal line, cut this in half, and when you open it up, you have a 1/4 square triangle. At this point, you can press your seams open if you like, or to one side, however. I press these seams open, and here is our 1/4 square triangle. Now we're going to trim this unit down to 3½ inches. We take the measurement of 3½ and divide it by 2, and we get 1 3/4. So we're going to place the diagonal line along this diagonal, and then we're going to look at 1 3/4 marking on this ruler and put that right in the center. So 1 3/4 is right here. And match your diagonal, and this is my 1 3/4 inch line right here. It intersects right here. Now look on this side, and there's enough to trim here, enough to trim here, and then I look for my 3.5 inch mark, and it's right here. So I'll go ahead and trim these two sides. Now flip this over, and you should be able to now just match your 3.5 on these two sides, and then check your diagonal measurement. And that's good. And then trim these other two sides. And do that for all 4 of your quarter square triangle units. We have all of our units done, and we'll just put the block together on the prop-it board. We'll put the big snowball in the middle, and the quarter square triangles go like this. And the chisel units go on the sides like this. Okay. And then these plain squares go in the corners. Now you have basically 4 rows. So you'll need to sew these units together first. Your chisel units on both sides of your quarter square triangles. Do all 4 of these first, and then you'll just stitch 3 rows. You'll stitch this top row, the middle row, and the bottom row. Press your seams and then stitch the rows together. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.